Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show, Dream to Destiny talk show by Binu Kurian. As for my relentless efforts to bring in successful people in front of you who has carved a destiny by working on their dreams, by putting in the best efforts, the best hard work, and the perseverance. Today, I have somebody, a special guest with me. I'm very privileged to welcome Dr. J. Rajmohan Pillai, the chairman of Beta Group, in front of you. By his actions, he has mesmerized many youngsters, motivated many entrepreneurs in and around the world. I'm very happy to welcome Mr. Pillai for the show Dream to Destiny, where I take inspiring stories from people like you to show how the dreams can carve out to become individual destiny. Welcome to show, Mr. Pillai. Thank you very much for joining.
So, sir,
Thank you very much for having me. It is such a great pleasure.
Mr. Pillai, my first question goes to like this. Tell me about you growing as a child in Kerala, as a son of a big business magnate based out in Kollam, KJ Pillai.
I never knew that my father was a business tycoon. I thought every family was like this when I
uh-huh.
actually grew up. And I thought every family had good cars, good food, and everything. It is quite difficult when you're actually growing up in such a good community to actually know what difficulties are, because you're actually cocooned into actually believing that that is what life is about. It took me a fairly long time to understand what actually reality is. So growing up, I thought it was normal. So I thought that small things was the biggest sorrows of life. If you cannot go for a movie, that was equivalent to the worst thing that can happen to you, because you took it for granted that you had good food, you had good accommodation, you had good studies, you had good books, you had good things to play with, you had rackets, you had shoes, you had tennis balls, everything was in plenty. So growing up, I kind of was actually cocoon. So that is what actually happened. So it was one success after the other. So it was all about growing up to being more and more comfortable, lots of working that used to happen. We are actually a business family, so going for meetings, understanding was all good. It actually started a little change only when I was like 14, 15, when things started going a little more difficult for my father. And then I had to start stepping in to try to help him. He was also getting older. There was a large age difference between my father and me. So that actually got me into working in when I first started going to the factories in the holidays of my 10th standard. I started seeing what poverty was, what difficulties was. It was a much more harder set of reality. But one of the things that my father did was actually I had to actually sleep in the factory itself, eat with the workers, do all the things of traveling in the same lorry and everything like them. That actually put in a lot of the basic stabilizing force in my life. And that was actually the change. It was like when I was a child, I never knew, but these kind of things when I was 14 actually made the change. Then there was a reality that actually stuck into me, which actually helped me. So the young age can actually be divided like before 14 and after 14. So that is when things actually started changing. So being a being
So
the
that means that
person doesn't
Mhm.
really help you in understanding what life is all about. It's just
The
about
real life is about. So I would say till 14 you had a silver spoon in your mouth. Then after 14 to 18 was a real little bit of struggle. 18
yes,
it was really a struggle where you realized that what life is all about. Correct,
that
sir?
is true. So
Am I right in
the
understanding that
time
question?
that
All right, sir.
I actually, when I was 18, my father actually uh, got into the intensive care unit after having a heart attack. And
Oh, sorry.
my father was very successful, but he was at that point of time, you didn't have so many professionals in this field to take care of business. So he was doing most of the things himself, though he had an army of people. The people who could actually take up positions were very, very different. So he had a lot of family members actually taking care of it. But when the difficulty struck and he was actually put into the intensive care unit, it all collapsed. So the business went
Oh,
into a whole toss. He could not get on the telephone, which was kind of his right hand all the time to actually set things done. The creditors, including the bankers, all lost faith in the company. All the people who were supposed to be helping around just moved out. And that is when reality stuck. And then the banker said, only if I stood guarantee for this huge liability, which was the largest liability in South India at that point of time. It was actually like 5.5 crores to the bank and another 40 crores to the government department, including income tax, sales tax, and other departments. So they wanted me to stand for
oh, was
guarantee.
it,
But
was it, yeah, was it for the bank, Indian Overseas Bank, so that you're stating that you had, is that bank, that Indian Overseas Bank had a big liability on you?
yes, Indian
Hmm.
Overseas Bank actually grew along with us in Kollam. So it was a very small branch, but it
Hmm.
started becoming the largest bank, actually the largest branch in South India, only because of
Hmm.
my father's business. But because
Oh,
it's like
okay.
a when elephant falls, the fall is very much more bigger. So from
I
actually
understand.
at that point in time having a 16 crore fixed deposit to go into this huge
Hmm.
liability when you cannot even pay the interest was actually a very
Hmm.
major problem. So I had to step in to take over while I never knew what these businesses were all about, how these things were conducted. I had gone to the factories, I'd gone for some meetings, but to take up a complex problem of business along with the liabilities are very different. It's actually extremely different. So that is something that it was the reality actually striking in. And for a lot of these youngsters that they might never understand, a liability of like a 40 crore at that point of time is close to like a 4,000 crores or even an 8,000 crores of today. Today, people talk about Vijay having a 9,000 crore liability and everything. It was a very similar situation. And it's not very easy to start actually paying that kind of money. You don't have the assets. All the assets together of my father at that point of time was only 3.5 crores. And all the businesses had actually come to a grinding halt. So you had to place. So that is when actually reality came to me.